Hey everyone, thanks for joining me here at GRIMMCon 3 on this frosty, pandemic-ridden winter's day. I'm Johnny Christmas. We're going to talk to you today about urban exploration, a hobby that I feel like has been lost over the years, especially since 9/11 happened and trespassing was really cracked down upon back in those days. And I'm trying to bring it back, trying to create a resurgence here, a renewed interest in this, if you will. And I'm going to do it by talking at you about the things that are involved. First off, here's me. I'm Johnny Christmas. I've done a ton of stuff. I am the 3D printed TSA keys guy, in case you were like, who's that guy? Why do I know that name? It's probably that. I've also done a bunch of other crap over there. I don't know. Only vaguely related to urban exploration, maybe like the middle bunch there. That's it. Nobody really cares. We're not going to linger on this. Let's get into the rules, the kind of like unspoken guidelines, the framework that you just kind of should keep at the forefront of your mind when you're thinking about getting into urban exploration as a hobby. Um, First off, I'm not a lawyer. It makes for this amazingly problematic acronym, but I digress. Um, you probably all may have guessed that urban exploration involves a whole heck of a lot of trespassing. Uh, it's true. Trespassing primarily is the main legal issue that you bump up against when you're thinking of doing this sort of thing as a hobby. You've got both that criminal and civil liability potential depending on local jurisdiction, local laws, and what those laws look like and what the punishments look like are going to vary by municipality, right down, to from town to town. It can even vary, and I've seen it range from a $200 fine to 3 years in prison. So make sure you're aware of what kind of trouble you can be getting yourself into before you start going down this path, because it can really suck when you get hit with a $10,000 fine because you got busted doing something stupid and you didn't even know that it was a possibility. Upside is generally these punishments aren't enforced. Generally, you're going to be breaking into, and yes, you're breaking into private property that is not currently cared about. If it was cared about, it wouldn't be particularly interesting, with some cool exceptions, but no time to get into those for now. The main concern that owners of this property have is that somebody's going to go inside there and get injured. One of the things that causes that is a lot of optics, a lot of visibility to perhaps how cool this place is and the fact that it's abandoned, thus causing more people to start coming in. And the more people you have coming in, the more potential there is for someone to get injured or killed, and then you as the property owner are often at least partially responsible for what goes on there. And so that's why those laws are in place for the most part. Usually, like, the laws are meant to really be enforced in the cases of trespassing and actively used facilities, not so much abandoned ones, but those trespassing laws can be used against you for that as well, because they're better than the nothing else that there is for that. Also, you've got the potential for the damage you're causing to the property, including damage you might cause just simply entering or walking around. You may go, well, this is abandoned. Look, this place is a wreck. If we look at the video I have playing behind me, like, who cares if this place gets damaged? Again, if they're trying to use existing laws to get people to stop going into these places, that's one of the things that they can certainly hit you with, because you have, in fact, possibly damaged someone's private property. And there you go. You've also got injury or death of someone you're traveling with. If somebody gets seriously injured or perhaps killed, their family might come after you saying, like, hey, you lured our son, you lured our father, whatever, into this precarious situation without properly informing him of the risks. This is your fault. We feel you're responsible now for his death. So again, that's something a lot of people don't think about is, what happened, the people you're traveling with. What happens if something happens to them? Is it your fault? It could be. Keep that in mind. Back to the the trespassing aspects a little bit and just generally avoiding causing problems for yourself and others. Don't be suspicious and don't be obnoxious. I think both of those are really key things to keep in mind, both while attempting to stake out a place, attempting to enter a place, and of course, while you're in the place, don't make so much noise that you can be heard from the outside of it. And of course, when you're leaving as well. When you're snooping around, trying to find how to enter this building, whatever it might be, don't look like that's what you're doing. Don't look like a burglar is a basic easy thing to keep in mind. Keep all your crap in your bag. Don't take it out till you're inside. Make sure you pack it all up before you go back outside. Don't park directly in front of the building you're about to go into, especially if it's abandoned. You're probably the only car there. You're probably the only car that's been there for a very long time. And so just the car being there is going to tip people off that someone's inside. That might tip the cops off who might be having a slow news day and might want to do something about it. And finally, as you're exiting, as it says here, don't linger. Heck, even as you're just looking around for how to get in, you might be coming back tomorrow. You're just casing the joint for today. Don't hang around once you're done. Get the hell out of there. The longer you're visible, the more you're amplifying the potential for causing trouble for yourself. So get in, get out, go home. Before you enter, and probably before you even begin casing out the joint, do some research. This is really the best place to get started. This is the best way to find a place to go to in the first place. Look around, especially if you live in, say, parts of the country that have been once had a really big economic boom and then crashed later. Those are the places that often have the most waste, the most buildings that have been huge and reused for tons of cool things or one cool thing, production, storage, something, and now have been abandoned forever because that industry has gone and no one's worked in that town in a million years. Something like that, something like the Rust Belt, somewhere where, an American industry has come and gone. Places where there used to be the old Silicon Valleys are often great places to go look. Rochester, New York comes to mind, which has they used to have a subway system that's now closed down. You can explore out there. Like, how cool is that? So look for, research the places you're going to. Look for old historical information like that. And when you find a building that's still standing and that's abandoned, look for historical information on it. That's going to tell you a lot about, is it, was it on fire recently? Has there been some horribly destructive thing that's gone on to the point where you probably shouldn't even be going inside at all? Even just looking this information up often will lead you to information about how to go exploring inside of there. Often, perhaps just because you'll stumble across like a Flickr account or some YouTube videos of somebody else who's already done this. And it often takes quite a few of those before you can piece together how to actually enter. Sometimes those methods of entry no longer exist. You might have to find others. Satellite images are really good for that, at least for looking around the outside. Nothing is going to beat, of course, in-person recon, walking around the outside of the building and looking, but perhaps it's a building that's a pain in the ass to get to. Perhaps walking around it is difficult or suspicious. You might have to cross 2 or 3 perimeters before you can get inside. I did an abandoned children's hospital just outside of Berlin that had 2 fences around the outside you had to get through before you were even on the land and could walk towards the hospital. So it's good to do the research up front. And I think finally, what I would put the UrbEx groups last, because those are often the least productive. UrbEx folks, for the reasons I just stated, aren't extremely open to sharing information about all of this. It attracts other people to the spaces, which causes security to greatly increase around the area, either privately or police-wise or something. And UrbEx folks just don't want that. Also, it's illegal. It's against the law. And so they don't want to share the fact that they're breaking the law with someone they don't know. But if you do a lot of good work, you post a lot of good footage, you're helpful. That's how you make friends in any industry, and more people are going to eventually trust you and be willing to help you out. Once you're inside, or thinking about going inside at least, like you found a place, know your physical limits. This is super important. We're talking about your life here. We're talking about life and risk to serious injury. Sorry, and you got to really sit down and accept some things about yourself. I've put a few things here that are just good key elements to have when doing these things. They may seem a little excessive even to some of you. I assure you they're not. I try to be as lenient as possible by using real data that I have from my own dives. Like walking 5+ miles, really? You're going into a building. Yeah, I log 5 miles easy when exploring a building because you're walking constantly, and especially in circles, and you're covering every area back and forth. You can get 5 miles in there real easy. 5 miles, also not as hard as it sounds, but maybe try it out somewhere safe before you go in for real. The lifting and carrying 70 pounds, you're going to have to move heavy things out of the way. You're going to have to pull doors open. You're going to have to pull yourself up onto ledges. Make sure you can do that. Make sure you can do that a few times. Just 3 pull-ups. 3 pull-ups is hard for a lot of people. I've been in phases in my life constantly where I could no longer do even 3 pull-ups. It's not embarrassing. It's just a thing you need to be aware of. Be aware of how much you weigh versus how beat up the structure is. And that's not to say like, are you too fat to go walking around an abandoned building? Is your 200 pounds too much for the intense structural damage this place may have suffered? And that's going to apply as you walk through the place as well. I usually make sure I have a rod or a pole or a stick or something that I could just constantly whack the floor with in front of me as we're coming through dangerous areas, just to be sure. When I talk to other urban explorers, the topic quickly comes up of, oh, I had a friend, or we lost someone who, so-and-so 2 years ago. Everyone knows somebody. It's like motorcyclists. Everybody knows somebody or has a story about somebody who died on a motorcycle. Every urban explorer has a story about somebody who died doing urban exploration. And almost always it's because they fell through the floor. Sometimes the floor is a roof they were on, but they fell through the floor because they weighed too much for the structural capacity of that flooring. And it's not that they were fat, it's that they were more than that floor could handle. And it's something you really got to keep in mind, especially if you are on the heavier side. The heavier you are, the more you really have to consider this. And my favorite thing here, finally, bring snacks and take breaks. Holy crap, does this help? I cannot tell you how big of a deal it is to just like stop, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, eat a granola bar, eat a banana, just keep it in your bag. It really gives you a great boost where you can get up and you can keep going and you get more energy, because you don't want to have to come back. You want to cover this place as much as you possibly can in the one shot you might have. And you don't want to burn out and go, all right, this is fine. This is enough. Let's get out of here and miss something really cool. Bring snacks and eat them and take breaks. Who doesn't love snacks? Just do it. Let's move on to what you should have with you. Speaking of bananas and granola bars. I like to tell people, this is my little joke, travel light, obviously, because you're going to need light. You're going to need all sorts of lights, crazy amounts of lights. Here are some of my favorite lights, in case you don't know where to start with lights. Make sure that you have a good, high lumen, long lasting, lightweight flashlight. Everybody likes to bring these like 4D cell mag lights. Those suck. Those hurt your wrist after 2-3 hours of lugging this thing around. You're just like, forget that. There's no need for those. Those don't have to exist anymore. They're stupid. Get a nice lightweight flashlight that's high lumen. There's no end of them out there. I like to also take like a handheld work light like you see over there. And I actually strap it to one of my backpack straps. So you just always have this massive headlight right on your chest broadcasting forward. I like to bring a headlamp as well, so that as you turn your head, it points the light to where you're looking. This is great, especially if you're trying to open boxes or drawers or doors or something and you have to put your flashlight down. You still have a great amount of light that you can use to see everything you're doing. Phoenix and LED Lenser, two of my absolute favorite portable light companies. Look into those two if you're not sure where to get started. Finally, we're here and we want to share what we've seen. You know, yeah, it's cool to go in and see things for yourself, and certainly doing that just for the hobby of it, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm a big fan of information needing to be stored and shared. And the way we do that in these facilities is, of course, video. I don't recommend bringing GoPros, if you can tell from my comments here. GoPros, ever since it seems the 5, have been terrible. They overheat all the time. They just turn themselves off for no reason. I've had 3 models since the 5, and they all have all of these problems. They're unreliable. They are not professional equipment. Don't even buy one. There's other GoPro-like things. DJI makes some really good ones. The Osmo Action you see here, the Pocket 2 just came out, really good. The audio on them, not amazing, but for this kind of work, you don't really care about audio. Your phone probably has one of the best cameras out there, especially if you have like something like the new iPhone 12s with the wide angle lens. These are incredible. You have a 4K 120 frame per second wide angle lens camera that you can take with you. Super lightweight, extremely battery efficient. You can strap that to your chest and go. Also, don't strap it to your head. Strap it to your chest if you're not holding it. Strapping it to your head creates these videos where you're constantly looking around, and it makes everyone who watches your videos sick. So please stop doing that. That aside, bring your batteries. Just bring crap tons of batteries. USB batteries are cheap. They're easy. They're lightweight. You can pack a ton of them. Bring batteries. And bring your ghost hunting gear. You know, if you're into that, if you're a ghost hunter, you're trying to get into it, bring your ghost hunting gear. I'm not going to comment on that. You can go figure out what that is. And of course, bring a backpack, and not just a backpack to carry all your stuff, to carry all the stuff you might find. This is archaeology. This is legit archaeology. This is stuff that's going to get destroyed if we leave it. It belongs in a museum. Maybe, but probably not. But probably it's cool and it's going to get wrecked. So take it. You know, those of us who were Boy Scouts know the old adage of like, leave it better than you found it. I don't think that applies here. These buildings are almost all going to get bulldozed and everything's going to end up in a landfill. So if you find something cool, I'm a big proponent of take it. It's funny. You could see here in this video, here's me scavenging hard drives, working on a separate project right now where we're going to be hosting all of these hard drive images from these drives we find in our dives over the years. But that's not going on right now. So not going to get too deep into it. Personal, like physical safety is a big concern here. Like I said, your life is at stake. Your body is at stake. You have to be serious about this. It's a frivolous, fun, dumb hobby, some might think, but it's extremely dangerous. And again, just like motorcycling, it's that. It's really fun. Yes, it's really dangerous. It's something you have to keep in mind. But just like motorcycling, if you wear all the proper gear, 99% of the time you're going to be fine. I really like mechanics gloves because they're durable. You're going to be grabbing a lot of rusty stuff, a lot of sharp stuff. Most of that's not going to puncture your mechanics gloves. They're cheap, $5 to $15 for some okay ones. Just do that. Bring an N95 mask. They were a little harder to find because of the pandemic. It's easier now. You want N95 because of the mold and especially the asbestos you might be coming across in these buildings, depending on when they were decommissioned. In the US, most of these buildings have had their asbestos removed, but you never know. I did a Wonder Bread factory in Buffalo, New York, that the whole top floor was all asbestos, and I had my respirator, and it's a sealed respirator, not like the medical masks, not the plaster sanding masks, the big rubber filter, those things where no air can get in, because asbestos is not a joke. They're a little pricey, $30-$40. Also be aware those filters expire. So check the dates on those before you head out. Some good tough jeans. I like Kevlar motorcycle jeans. Hard hats. You don't need necessarily like a big bulky construction hard hat, but like a skydiving or helmet or something like that, or snowboarding helmets are generally enough to get you by. You're rarely going to have a steel beam come down and crack you in the head. You might, but for the most part, it's going to be you hitting your head on stuff. And so just a really good solid, something better than a bicycle helmet is the bottom line there. Boots, steel-toed boots, waterproof boots. Half these places are filled with water up to your ankles down in the basements. So steel toes, some really good Timberlands, something like that. But overall, clothing-wise, pretend you're going hiking. Assume you're going to be outside. These places have no HVAC. Most of them, all the windows are busted out. You're effectively outdoors. Dress for hiking outdoors. So something that's sweat wicking, keeps you cool, but also keeps you warm if it's winter. Just think, if I were going to go hiking right now, what would I wear? Wear that plus safety equipment. You're going to be all right. That aside, I don't think I got to tell you too much about the buddy system. Make sure you've got a buddy, at least one buddy with you there. Make sure you have a buddy off site who knows where you're going and what you're doing, that you can check in with and go, hey, if you don't hear from me in 4 hours, if you get to the location before you go in, if you have no cell signal, tell them like, hey, we've got no cell signal out here. But if you don't hear from us in 4 hours, call the cops. This is where we're at. Otherwise, if you have cell signal, tell them, hey, I'm going to check in every hour, or check in with me every hour. Something that easy. And if you don't hear from me, call the cops. If you get hurt and are stuck, call the cops. Call 911. Get an ambulance in there. Tell them where you're at. Tell them how to get into the place. Tell them how to find you once you're in there. They'll often keep you on the line just so they can make sure that you're found. It's worth it. It's worth the, $5,000 whatever fine you might get hit with to say prevent the loss of a limb because you broke your leg and wanted to hobble out without getting caught. Don't be afraid to call 911. Moving away from safety gear, let's talk about security bypassing gear. You might think that this is a huge part of it because you're breaking into buildings. In reality, it's not. It's a very small part of it, if at all. Most of the times you can get away with not needing any of this stuff. The top things I recommend are the multi-tool, because that comes in hand. It's a multi-tool. You can use it for all kinds of crap. A loom hook, which I don't have near me. Look it up. It's real common. It is great for slipping into stuff and just pushing latches open. It is amazing. You'll get through so many doors with just a stupid loom hook. There are common keys that open a lot of boxes, especially fire department boxes and elevator boxes, buildings that have like key boxes. Make sure you have a key box wheel lock decoder tool. That's really cool to have. I mentioned Deviant here. He gave a really good talk at Hope 11 on common keys, things that are key to like, so you can keep a small key ring of keys that are going to open a lot of things you might come across. So go watch that talk. That aside, jigglers are handy for wafer locks. If you like to dig through filing cabinets, those are really good. I'm not a fan of picks. They take too long. If you got to pick a lock, get out of there. It's probably not worth it. And there's probably another way past the door that you're already trying to pick the lock on. So unless you're really, really good at picking locks, I say bypass those. And finally, of course, you could bypass plenty of locks with some bolt cutters. Those are often huge and heavy. They suck to lug around. They're hard to hide in a backpack or anywhere else. So they're super suspicious. It's hard to explain why you have those and not say you're trying to break into places. So I just avoid those altogether. Again, it's so rare I come across a situation that needs any of that. So hopefully that was enough to get you started. Looks like I'm getting out of here right on time. So that's super cool. Probably the first time I've ever given a talk with a little time left over. Hooray me. And I've been Johnny Christmas. I hope this was enough to really get you out there. Please feel free to ask me any questions now. Ask me any questions later. You could find me on Twitter here. I have a YouTube channel where I post all of my more recent UrbEx videos because I just kind of got started into the hobby again. It's been a lot of fun. Check me out there. This slide deck can be found on GitHub over there, along with all my slide decks. So once again, I'm Johnny Christmas. Thanks so much for coming to my talk, and enjoy the rest of the con.